Imagine with me a country whose army occupies Rutba, is ranked globally, but doesn't own a single fighter jet or a tank or anything else. Today it threatens to bring the war to the heart of Russia. Is that courage? Or is there someone selling illusions to the Baltic states just like they did with Ukraine? The Estonian foreign minister made statements that are both laughable and sad at the same time. And today we will reveal to you how new scapegoats are being prepared in Eastern Europe. And it's clear that the expansion of the war will start from these 3 Baltic states. How is that? This is what we will talk about today. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to our program today in this renewed episode, God willing, from the Opinion series. The most attention-grabbing thing today is these statements made by the Estonian foreign minister to the British Telegraph newspaper. Statements that are both laughable and sad, statements that are far from reality. And they show us how some countries are being dragged into things, and how some peoples are being dragged in as well. The European peoples, whom these controlling countries in Europe consider to be nothing more than third-rate countries, or simply third-rate peoples. They can be sacrificed, they can be pushed toward destruction. This is exactly what is happening in these areas that you know today as Eastern Europe, and precisely today. The focus is on the 3 Baltic states. So what did the Estonian foreign minister say? I mean, listen carefully. He said that Estonia, or these 3 Baltic states in general, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. He said that these countries are capable of repelling any potential Russian attack. Moreover, he said that these countries are capable of taking the war inside Russian territory, meaning they are able to launch a strong counterattack against Russia. That's it. So, pay close attention. The foreign minister of a very small country in terms of area, whose army today ranks in the middle globally in terms of military strength. And he says that he is capable of responding to a country whose area is the size of an entire continent and whose army ranks second in the world in terms of military strength. The foreign minister of the country, whose army does not exceed 7,700 soldiers, says that he is capable of repelling an army of 1,300,000 soldiers. A country that does not possess even a single fighter jet, does not possess even a single helicopter, does not possess even a single tank, does not possess even a single warship. And its foreign minister says that it is capable of repelling any attack and capable of attacking Russian territory, which we are talking about today. It possesses more than 5,000 tanks, more than 8 fighters, tens of thousands of drones and missiles, and so on. I mean, pay attention to how the people of these countries are being laughed at and mocked, how they are being dragged in today, and how they are being prepared today for what is coming, for this dangerous upcoming scenario. NATO previously said that these 3 Baltic states are militarily weak, and it said that if Russia wanted to occupy them, it could do so in a very short time. But the Estonian foreign minister told this British newspaper that these concepts are outdated. He said that Estonia, on the contrary, is capable and ready to respond with offense, not just defense. So what's strange today is that they are talking about military preparations taking place in all 3 of these countries. I mean, the Baltic states are talking about a military base located on the outskirts of the border with Russia, as if through this base, they are planning to invade Russian territory. Pay attention, they are talking about the presence of 1,000 soldiers in this base. They are talking about trenches and defenses along the border with Russia. They are talking about 1,700 NATO troops in this country. They are talking about around 44 German tanks currently deployed in Lithuania. So, with this base, with these forces, with these numbers we're talking about, will this Russian attack be repelled? Will these forces be used to attack Russia, according to the statements of this Estonian minister? So it's really strange, since 2023 and Lithuania has been asking Germany to send German army forces to protect this country, and in 2023 what happened? Was it actually agreed to send them? These forces were specified as 5,000 soldiers equipped with 105 tanks. But until today, until this very hour, Germany is facing a very big dilemma. Only 44 tanks have gone to Lithuania, and we're talking about several soldiers, approximately around 300 or 350 soldiers. The German soldiers accompanied and transported the tanks to Lithuania, or generally to one of the Baltic states. Germany offered financial rewards to anyone who volunteered to go to Lithuania and promised them jobs for their wives there in Lithuania. They also promised to educate their children according to the German curriculum. Nevertheless, Germany did not find volunteers, meaning they refused to go to Lithuania because they know they will be on the front lines at the start of the next scenario. Maybe it's the big war, or maybe a possible Russian invasion of these Baltic countries. So Germany found itself in a dilemma, unable to fulfill the terms of this agreement with the Baltic states. Therefore, the German Ministry of Defense decided to organize a trip, a visit for members of the German army to Lithuania. It's just a visit. They will visit this country. The purpose of this visit is to show them that Lithuania is a good place to live, that the situation in Lithuania is good, and that the families of the army will live safely there. So the goal is to convince them to join in Lithuania, because now everyone knows about it. Now, German soldiers refuse to go to the Baltic countries for two reasons. The first reason is that they know their families will have a very hard time adapting in these countries. I mean, whether it's because of the language, cultural differences, the difficulty for their wives to find work there, or other similar reasons. The second reason is that they are also completely convinced that the Russians will definitely retaliate against these countries. They are certain that the Russians will invade these countries sooner or later. The Russians have a strategic goal that they will achieve no matter how long it takes. They want to connect the Kaliningrad region to Russian territory, so they want to avoid being on the front lines. The German soldiers avoid being on the front lines. The German army and the European army in general have not fought any real war. Since the time of World War II, we're talking about more than 80 years, generation after generation. We're talking about the modern generations. These new generations don't know the real meaning of fighting now. They thought that joining the army was just to earn a monthly salary. For what? In exchange for military and physical training, and maybe sometimes volunteering to participate. But participating in military operations, even against a few dozen armed groups that they call terrorists in Africa or Asia or elsewhere, or even against a country from the Arab or Islamic world, these collapsed countries, both militarily and economically, these people have never experienced a real war yet. They don't have a true combat doctrine. And here, everyone should know that the German army usually does not send soldiers to such foreign countries except on a voluntary basis. They open the door for volunteering to soldiers who want to do so, based on benefits, financial rewards and incentives. But now, the dangerous thing is that there is someone in the German parliament, the Bundestag, who is from the ruling party, who is calling for sending troops there by force, not on a voluntary basis. But even if that happens, are these forces capable of repelling the Russian attack? Not at all. That's why the Baltic states probably know that the Germans, the French and NATO in general won't fulfill all their promises, and they can't be relied on in the moment of truth. That's why today they're also talking about another alliance that brings them together with the Scandinavian countries. An alliance known as MB8, an alliance that includes the 3 Baltic states. This is along with the military alliance of the Nordic countries. Nordefco, we're talking about Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and then Iceland. This alliance, made up of 5 countries, Nordefco, was established in 2009, but it didn't actually become active until after this Russian invasion of Ukraine. At that time, they said we should work within this framework. The first thing these 5 countries did was create a unified military uniform that brings these 5 countries together. After that, they formed joint air forces, and now they've done it. By the year 2030, the armies of these countries must be completely allied with each other. So now these Baltic countries, through this alliance that includes Nordefco, believe they are strong. They believe they are capable of defending their territories, and even more than that, capable of attacking Russia. As the Estonian foreign minister pointed out, what this minister said is one thing, but the reality is something else, completely different. For example, in Estonia, the total number of troops does not exceed 10,000 soldiers. How can such a number repel a Russian land invasion? Even the generals of this Nordic Defence Cooperation Alliance, Nordefco, say that their presence in the Baltic countries, what is its purpose? Is it just to guarantee holding out for only 2 weeks until military reinforcements arrive? Also, we find that these 5 countries originally do not have any military capabilities that would enable them to defend other countries. Today, they can barely think about how to defend their own territories there. For example, a country like Iceland, for instance, Iceland does not have an army at all. Iceland is one of the few countries in the world that does not have an army. It doesn't have an army, fighter jets, tanks, ships, missiles, or anything else of that sort. In terms of military assets, what does it have? What does it have? Only security forces, the police. So this alliance must first think about how it can defend itself, and how it can defend a country like Iceland, for example, before it thinks about defending other countries like the Baltic states. If the alliance intervenes, you'll find Russia occupying this island, Iceland, in just 1 hour, maybe. The Russian army currently deployed in the Kaliningrad region might alone be capable of invading these countries, the Baltic states. Why are we talking about that? In Kaliningrad, a fully equipped army? There, we're talking about dozens of fighter jets, hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles, warships, dozens of ballistic and cruise missiles and so on, including air defense systems as well. So, what do you think would happen if Russia moved its forces in this region? Now, if everyone has noticed, there have been provocations from the Europeans for many months, and they keep talking about a possible Russian invasion of the Baltic states and the leaders of these countries. The Baltic states are the most hostile to Russia. Every day, every single day they talk about Russia, even though Russia denies every time that it has any intention of invading the Baltics. And today, these provocative statements actually come from the Estonian foreign minister? Maybe all of this is preparation for something coming. Definitely maybe preparations to open a new front of fighting in this region. Even France, and we talked about this in a previous episode, even France is now leading military exercises training for amphibious landings, amphibious assaults. And today, if we look at the map, we'll find that this training doesn't really have any use. unless there are other intentions in this region. Maybe a landing in the Baltic states, maybe a landing in the Kaliningrad region. Otherwise, there's no point to this training. A naval landing in Ukraine, for example, is not possible. Why? Because Turkey is there and will not allow military ships to pass through the Dardanelles and Bosphorus Straits, according to the Montreux Convention. So, these statements are not arbitrary. Certainly, it has goals like preparing the Estonian, Latvian and Lithuanian societies, selling illusions to the people of these countries, making them believe they are strong nations with allies, and that they're capable of going to war against the Russians, and that today they won't just defend themselves, but will even attack Russian territory. Because they're selling illusions to these countries, just like they sold illusions to Ukraine in Ukraine. What did they tell them? They told them, don't be afraid, we're with you. The entire NATO alliance is with you. Today, Ukraine is experiencing defeats, losing territory every day, even though they're fighting the Russians. Listen carefully, even though they're fighting the Russians. With more than 800,000 soldiers, more than 800,000 soldiers are defending Ukraine today. So what about these small countries that are talking today about academic clonal? Do they even have 50,000 soldiers? It's clear that history is repeating itself in a darkly comedic way. German soldiers refuse to go to the front unless there are tourist trips, bonuses, incentives, and so on. Ministers from microscopic countries are threatening the third most powerful army in the world. So my question to you is, and I want an honest answer in the comments, do you think the Baltic states will be the next sacrifice that NATO makes to weaken Russia? Or are we just exaggerating? And that this force made up of 44 German tanks will really defend the Baltic states or liberate Moscow? Answer us in the comments and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Peace be upon you and see you next time.